Hi, I'm Paul Seal from codeshare.co.uk. Welcome to this 9th episode in this series where I show you how to build a website in Umbraco v10. In this episode, I'm really looking forward to showing you how I use the block list editor in Umbraco. It's one of my favourite things about Umbraco. I've got a way of working, a convention that I've developed from looking at how other people do websites and how I enjoy working with Umbraco and finding the best ways that I've put together so that I can work with the block list editor. So I really want to show you this. If you are just coming in at this level and you want to do this block list editor episode and you don't want to do all the past stuff, you can pick up the code. If you go to PRJSeal and then Umbraco 10 tutorial, you can get the code. So I've got 5 tags. So if you go to tags and then if you see, actually I've not created the tag for the previous episode 8. I'll do that after this, so when it goes out you'll see that there's one for episode 8. What we're going to do with the block list editor is we're going to add some different row types. Depending on how long the video takes, it will depend on how many different row types we add, but for definite we're going to do a rich text editor row type and we'll do an image row as well. So let's get started then. So I've got my website running. I've used .NET Watch Run to get it running, and this is it here. So I'm just going to log into the back office. So I'm logged into the back office. What is the block list editor? Well, it's a data type. It's a property editor that you create a data type using, and basically a little bit like this icon links that we did with nested content. Oh, sorry, that one's contentment, but we did a nested one here. How you can have complex properties that have properties themselves. You can have a repeatable list of items. Well, with this, we can have a repeatable list of items as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create ourselves a repeating list of blocks. And there's just some certain things that I do to set this up. So first of all, what I do is I go into the elements folder, and where we've got nested content, we have an elements folder and we've got one called content blocks within that. So let's create a folder and call it content blocks. And create that. And within content blocks, what there is that you need to be aware of when you're defining a block for your data, for your block list, this block will have the actual block for the content side of things, but then also it'll have a block for settings, and the settings block is optional. So to start with, we'll just create the content models folder under this. So that is now a tree that goes elements, content blocks, content models. So it's within this that we're going to create our first model, and that first one is going to be an element type, and it's going to be called a rich text row. Now the naming of this is a convention that I've developed and that I will stick to as well. So rich text and then row. So this block is my row. If you were building up your page, I think of them as rows. So I call this a rich text row, and I'm going to give it an icon. I like to use this blue color for these content blocks. And if I just have a look for content, that will do there. So now in this, I'm going to create a tab and call it. I'm just going to create a tab and just going to have it called content, and then on this I'm going to call my property content. Now this might not like it, but we'll just find out in a moment. So enter the content for this item, and we'll start off really basic because I want to just get some ideas across to you first of all, and then we can build upon this. So select the editor, we'll just look for rich text. So we'll use the available configuration that's already there and submit that and then save. You can make it mandatory, but it's quite handy to not make things mandatory and just code defensively for them, so for them not being completed. So we'll do that. So that's our first one, rich text row, and we don't have a settings model for it, but that's okay. And also we put the property on the actual item itself. and later on I'll show you about how I use compositions instead. But for now, let's try it out with this. So we've got our rich text row. So in data types, let's create a data type, and we'll click on the three dots and we'll do a new data type. And I'm just going to put in brackets block list, and then I'm going to call it main content. Now you could have this named after the pages types that you want it used on, but in general this site is going to use this main content on all of the pages. It's going to be available, so all of the different row types can be used on any of the pages. So I'm just calling it main content. So I'll select the property editor. If I select block list, and then you get this thing here where it's got your available blocks. So in your available blocks, what you want to do is you want to start adding the blocks. So you click on add, go to elements, content blocks and content models. So it's very clear of what it is you're going to, what you're picking. Now with this you can create a label for it. So I like to do my label in a certain way. I've got an example of how I do my labels. Let me just get that example up. So my example, so if it's got a title, then we'll use the title. Now this one didn't have a title, and you might want to name this or just get it by the item name that it is. So we don't have that title, and actually it's just the rich content. There is a good post actually by Jason. Let's find him, Jason Elkin, and we'll look for block list labels. Let's see if this comes up, because it was a really good post that he did. I'm not sure if it's going to come up, but anyway, he did a really good post, and it gives you all of the different labels that you can use. For now, we are just going to use, I don't know, something like, I think we'll just say row. This is going to be rich text, so rich text, and then space in, and we'll just do dollar index like that. We'll just do a plus. So this is an Angular template that we're putting in here. So we're saying within this, just do a rich text and then one. So we'll submit that. We'll make this more advanced later. And when we make it more advanced, we'll do something with the settings. So for now, we'll just leave it at that. So that's our first available block. We've got live editing mode. So live editing in the editor overlays for live updated custom views or labels. So one of the things you can do with block lists is you can have a custom view so you can see it, and that will give you live editing. This inline editing mode is to make it use it like nested content. So if you wanted to, I think the plan is to not use nested content going forward. So you can do inline editing mode using this instead. And then you can change the width of the property editor window if you want. So we'll save this. This is our first property. And what we want to do is we want to add this on to all of our content pages. So we've got our content properties and we had body text. So after body text, let's just create a new one called main content. Oh, didn't spell that correctly. Enter the main content rows for this page. And then we're going to look for block list. And it's this one, block list main content. And submit. We're not making it mandatory. Save that. So now any pages that we've got that inherit from that composition, which was main content, then they will use that data list. We'll just go to settings, go in here to models builder, and we'll just generate models, because we've just made a change to the document types. And in here, because I did a .NET Watch run, it's asking me, do I want to restart? And I'm going to say always. So that will rebuild and restart the site for us now that we've got different models. So that's all done. So let's go to the content side of things and let's go on our About page. Go onto the Content tab and we've got this main content, add a rich text row. So the order looks different because we didn't actually set the ordering, so this has just come in above body text, but we can sort that out later. So let's copy this rich text here. We will cut that one out of there and we will add it to this one here, and we'll do create and then save and publish. So what you see is it pulled through the name rich text with the index value of 1, but we can make that say something different later on. But for now, just want to keep it fairly simple. So that's our first block. We've just added some of that content here. So I'll do a save and publish and we'll view the page. And what you should see is that the page has got no content now. It had the header, but nothing else left in the content body. So why is that? Well, let's go to the code. We'll go to the views and we'll look on the content page. And it's trying to render out the body text. Well, we emptied out the body text value. So actually what we want to do is we want to render out what's in the block list instead. So in order to do that, we need to create ourselves some block list components. And where we do that is in the partials, block list, and then at the moment we've got default, but we would create another folder under this called components, like that. And then we would open that out, and then inside this, what I'm going to do is just copy default, just because it's a CSHTML file. It's just easier to copy it. And then what we'll want to do is we will want to create our blocks in this, our block list item model. So we will delete the contents of this, what's here, and we'll do @inherits Umbraco view page, and then we'll do block list item. And I believe that will be the right one. Let me just do some double checking over here. That's correct. And then what we want to do is we want to do like that. So we'll open out our code block, and then we want to say var row. Now I always use this same naming convention as well, var row, and then we'll do equals and then model.content. Now that will bring in that content item, but it's actually a block list item.content. But the thing is, we want to cast it to be the type. So we want it to actually be of rich text row type, like that. So our row is of this. Then what we want to do is we want to render it out. So where we had the content page and we had this row being added here, what we can do is we can cut that, we can put it in here, and then we can do row dot. So row dot, and then the property was main content. Now I'm not getting into IntelliSense at the moment. I don't think it likes this Umbraco view page, and rich text row doesn't contain a definition for main content. So it might have been just content actually. There it is. So the property we called just content. So that's a little bit confusing there. Content in this context is not that, so I probably should have called this something else, but anyway, just know that the content there is more like the content model on this. I'm sorry for the confusing wording. And the content in this is the actual property on that rich text row that we created. Anyway, let's save that. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to tell it to render out this block list. So we need to edit the content page itself. So if we go on here, and where we used to have that row, we need to do @html.get blocklist.html open brackets model.main content, and then save. Now this should work unless I've done something wrong, so I'm going to reload. So this has shown an error, and we can work out what the issue is. So the partial view block list components rich text row wasn't found. So let's have a look. And first of all, it's looking for a capital C, and if we're working with Linux, we'd need to make sure that Linux or Mac, we need to make sure that the casing was correct. So first thing we want to do is we want to rename this folder first of all to components, like that, so that should match. And then we need to, where we had that copied default, we need to rename it to be rich text row. And this, the name of this file is always the same as the alias of that document type that we created. So where we've got document types, elements, content blocks, content models, rich text row, the alias is there, and that is the file name that you need to call this component. So I'll just open that out a little. So yeah, that's what that needs to be. So we'll save this again and we'll reload it on the front end, and we'll move on to the next error, because I knew there was going to be an error. One or more compilation references may be missing. Right, an error occurred. Please review. The type or namespace block list item couldn't be found. So we probably just need to add a using for that. So let's add the using. So I'll just find out what the using should be. And we might just be able to put it into our, if we go, there's a special file here called view imports. And in here we can put the reference to the relevant thing. So I think it should be at using umbraco.cms.web common. No, I'll just find out. I'll look it up. It's not actually there, so I'll just have to find it. We might get a clue from here. So it's CMS core models blocks. There we go. So if we add this to our view imports at using, and then like that, then on every view it will know about this, which means that on our rich text row it will be happy again now, and it won't be complaining. So hopefully that was all we needed to do. So let's reload it again. There we are. So just to recap, that file that we edited there was in the views views folder, and it's called view imports. So we just added that extra using there, and that's what satisfied that, and that has actually worked. So we've got our first ever block list item. And then, so what's good about this is we could have multiple rows on a content item. So I'm just going to open this in a new tab. So on our about content, so we could have, this is row 1. This is from row 1. Delete all that. Submit, and then we can add another one. This is from row 2. Create, save and publish, and now let's have a look at the page. Reload. This is from row 1, this is from row 2. So you get the idea, and then we can start adding more and more. So let's create a image row. So we'll go to content models, and we'll create a new element type, and we will call it image row, and we will give it a blue color pick. Wonder if PIC, yeah, there we go. And then content, and then we'll call this image. Choose the image for this item. Again, we're just adding it on this content model, but we can look at moving it out if we wanted to. So image media picker, submit that, save. And on this image row, we want to have a caption as well, and possibly a link. So let's just add these. So caption, enter the caption for this image, and then we'll do string. So that's the caption property, and then we'll also give it a possible link if we want to. Enter the link for this item, and this will be the single URL picker. Submit that and save. So that's another one defined already, and then what we can do is we can go down to our data types, and we can go to our block list, and then we can add a new type to this. So let's add, and let's go to elements, content blocks, content models, and now we already picked rich text row, so it's not available, but we haven't picked image row yet. And then in here we'll just call it image row with the single apostrophes around it, and then with a plus and then an index. Now this will, all that does is it just gives the row number with it for all rows. It's just something, just in case you had the same type all the way down. It's a differentiator, but there'll be different ways to edit these, and we'll go over those, whether that's in this video or future videos. Just know that. One of the things I didn't show you was some of the customization options here. So you can add a custom view. So if you wanted to, for like the rich text row, you could actually render the text in the back office nicely. And you can also add a custom style sheet that will be for that rendered item. You can add your settings model, which we will be doing in this video. You can change the background color. A lot of the time I do like to choose like the darker blue of the Umbraco here. So that might look good. So, or you could choose this purple and then this white here. Submit that. There you go. So it's just to make it look a little bit different in the back office. But I'm just going to remove that. Choose and then remove that one as well. And submit that. So we don't want those at the moment. Just keeping it basic. So now we have an image row. So if we wanted to, we could go to our content tab, click on refresh just to make sure it's got the latest settings and everything, and then we can add an image row now. So choose the image. Well, it's got to be either the frog or the dog. This is a picture of my pet frog, and then we'll add a link. So Fred, so I don't know, just do Google or something. Google.com query equals frogs. There we go. Frogs on Google. Open it in a new window. Submit that and create. So if we save and publish that and then refresh the page, we should get an error. We don't get an error. One thing we haven't done is rebuild the models, so let's rebuild the models. And then let's reload the page, and it should say, I can't find that image. I can't find your image row anywhere. Oh, it's still rebuilding because I rebuilt the models. So it's either going to render without those rows on it anyway, or it's going to attempt to render them and it's going to say, I can't find these. You need to create one. And so it's telling you where it's looking, block list, components, image row. Where is it? So we know what to do. Let's copy this one. Let's rename it to image row. Remember, that's the alias of the block of the element that we created. And row here, and we'll just do image row. So you see that the variable name stays the same, so that's handy. And then I've got some markup for the image row. So we keep the outer two divs the same. And then what we can do is we can just copy this. Well, I'll show you. We'll copy this A in. So we can do an if around this. So if, I'll tell you what, we'll do it without the A, without the link first of all. So let's just do it as the image. So this is going to do the full width image. Now people who are watching it or experienced with Umbraco might be thinking, oh, you should be using the image cropper and things. That will come in later videos. So I've got an image with the class of image fluid, and then we want to get the image off here. So at row.image.url. Now I think it's a method. We shall see. It might monitor us for that. It's complaining about that. Is it complaining? It's saying it could be null. That's true, it could be null. So one thing you can do here, and that is what I do on quite a lot of these. So let me just have a look at another one. Okay. So we can do var image equals, well, no, if row.image equals null, then just return, because this is a pointless row. If there's no image, then just return. So that has now satisfied this here. So it will just won't render anything if that's the case. We don't have an alt text here. What we can do on a future video is we can add alt text to images, but also we could just put the caption in here. So let's just do that. So at row.caption. And then underneath here, we'll do span with a class of caption text. Caption and then text muted, sorry. So this will just be like understated text. And then this will just be at row.caption as well. Now, if we reload the page, we should see that we've added an image. This is from row 1, this is from row 2. This is a picture of my pet frog. And if we want to, we can create this as a link. So we can do an if here, at if row.link is not equal to null. Then we can do an opening. So what you can do is in Razor you can do it like this. So we could do a href equals, and then we'll do at row.link dot URL, and we can do target equals at row.link dot target. There we are, and we'll end that. And then we'll do another at if row.link is not equal to null. There are several ways you can do this logic. You might have a preferred way, it's up to you. But if you've not done it before, you may as well copy what I'm doing here. There we go. And maybe we want a title on it. So I'm not sure the best way to do this. So let's just put whatever the caption is. This might be bad for accessibility. If it is, I'm sorry. Feel free to correct me and put it in the comments. There we go. Maybe we could do link.name actually, row.link.name. And that will pull it through from where it was edited in the back office of Umbraco. Has it logged me out already? So if we go to content, we go to the image, and we go to the link. Yeah, we've got the link there, the link title, so that'll be what the name is. So Frogs on Google. Right, save that. Let's load the page. And now this is actually a link that opens out into a new window. So that's the image type as well. So we can rearrange this and maybe put some Lorem Ipsum in there. So let's just go to Lorem Ipsum generator. Generate some paragraphs. There we are. Put that content in here. So we've got rich text. Paste that in there. Submit. And then we want our image row. And then we want to put some more. So we update this one. Submit that. We don't want to add any more. Just save and publish. Then we can reload this. We've got some content. We've got our image with a caption, links off somewhere, and then more content. So you can see that you're building up the page with your content, and it's quite powerful. As you want to, you can add new row types. So you just add new blocks, add them to your data type, and now you can just keep adding them on. So one thing I wanted to do in this video was just to show you about the settings as well. So let's go into this one here, and we're going to settings. So we're in the settings and in the document types. So what we want to do is we want to create a new folder underneath content blocks called setting models. Setting models, and what I like to do is create, for every content model that I create, I will create a setting model to go with it. So if I just create one for each of these, so I'll create it as an element type. I use the settings cog with that blue, and then I call it the exact same name but just with the word settings at the end. So it will be image row settings. I'm not going to add any properties to this at the moment. And then I'll do another one and I'll call it rich text row settings. So I've got one for each of those. Now on this, what I want to do is I want to create a composition, and the way I want to use that composition I'll show you. I'll just get my example up over here. So in my compositions I'm going to create a similar structure. So content blocks, create that, and in there I'm going to do content models. And also create at the same level as content models, setting models. So now in here I can create some compositions that I'm going to use for my blocks. And one of those is going to be a settings one. So I'm going to create a composition. I'm going to give it the blue color so it's different from my other compositions. And then I'm going to call this block visibility settings. Block visibility settings. And on here I'm going to add a settings tab and a property, and I'm just going to call it hide. Set this to true if you want to hide this item. submit that and save. Oh, before I save, I'm just going to reorder. So I'm going to set my settings to be 100 and my hide to be 5. So now I've got this one on here. I'm going to go to my setting models and I'm going to choose compositions and I'm going to pick that block visibility settings and save. And same for rich text row. Compositions, block visibility settings, submit and save. So now we have, for each of those row types, we have a hide property. So what's good about this is that we can hide a row, so we keep the content in the back office but hide it from being rendered out on the front end. And the way we do that is, first of all, we need to add this data type, add this to here. So we choose the settings model for rich text row. So I'm going to choose elements, content blocks, setting models, and then rich text row settings. So hopefully if you follow the convention, you'll always know where to look because it's named correctly, it's easy to find, easy to follow, and just do it like this each time and you've got a standard way of doing it. Now I think I was inspired by how Uskind did theirs, so props to Uskind. Really enjoyed looking at how they set up their document types. I definitely got the idea for the hide one from them. So this image row now, am I on the image row? Add a settings element type. Yeah, I'm on the image row, so I'm adding the image row settings. Submit that and then save. Now if we go back into the content and refresh, what you'll see on the content here, when you hover, you've got access to the settings, quick access. So you can get to the settings tab. And that is the same as clicking on the item and then going to settings there. So now we've got 2 tabs for each of these, content and settings. And we have a new setting here called hide. So let's hide this and submit and save and publish. And then let's go to the front end and just see if it is hidden or not. So that first one didn't get hidden. So if you were hoping for that to be hidden, then I do believe in magic because we didn't do anything to do that. So what we need to do is go into our setting, our rich text row, and then what I like to do is do another one of these and call it var settings equals, and then I'll do rich text row and then settings. We haven't done a build, so I'll just do model.settings and then we'll just do a build of models builder before we go any further. So I'll just close this, go to the settings one that I've already got open, click on this settings header here, then go to models builder and generate models. So again, that's going to rebuild and reload the Umbraco site. So that's done that, and edit this again. So go to the content. Yeah, we've got our settings. So if we go into here, so it should now be aware of rich text row settings. There it is. So it does know about it. So I'll leave that on there now. So now I have the strongly typed model for the settings. And then what I can do is I can just do if, in here, I can just do if, right underneath settings. So if settings question mark dot hide, and then I'll just say false. So basically, if it's not null and it has a value for hide that is set to true, then return false, or fall back to false. So basically, if the settings object has a property that isn't null and it has a property that is called hide, and that is set to true, then do this. Otherwise, fall back to false. So if it's null or anything, then it will fall back to false. So basically, if the result of this condition is true, then hide it, don't render it out. And so we'll just do that. If it's null, we'll just return. We won't show anything. So that on that settings hide. So now we've added that on there, so we should be able to go to the front end and reload the page. And now the first row is actually the image row. So if you have a look in the content, you'll see that, well, it shouldn't be that, but that's because the first one's hidden. So if we can unhide that and submit and then save and publish and then reload the page, you've got it. So it's there, it's working now with hide. So let's add that on for the, let's add this, we can just copy this and we can go to our image row. And because we're using this convention, all we have to do is just change that first part, that image row, substitute that in it here for that, and now we've got our settings, and we've copied over the if the settings hide is set to true or not, then return. So now if we wanted to, we could go into the content again, and we could this time set the image row to be hidden. So save and publish that, reload the site, and now we just have content and we don't have the image row hidden. We don't have the image row showing at all. So then, as I was saying, that we could add some extra things into the label, and we'll go further into the label when we do other videos about the block list, because this is just the first one and I'm going to end it soon. But if we go into this, what we can do is we can do a check. So let me just consult with my example. Yeah, so we can do $settings. So this is how we get access to the settings property. $settings and then hide. If that is equal to 1, then what we want to do, we can either put an emoji, we could put anything really, but I'm just going to put hidden. And as I said, I think I got this idea from Uskind. I think they've since gone on and done a lot more with it. Otherwise, don't render anything in this. So that there will give us another part of the label template. So we'll just copy this last part, submit that, and then we'll add it to the image row as well. Submit that, save. And let's go and have a look and see if we've done it correctly. Go to content and go to about content. Oh yeah, you see that? It's telling you that the second row has been hidden. And then we can do it on this one as well. And that one's been hidden too. So that's good. And while we're at it, I'll just show you the inline editing mode as well. So if we go back to the block list main content, we can do inline editing, set that to on. Then when we go back to editing the content and we reload, go to content here, what you can do is it just opens it out. So if you wanted to, you could use this block list a bit like you do with nested content, and then you can just access the settings from here for each row type. So I think that's plenty. It's got the ideas and the conventions that I'm using for the block list so far, and in other videos we will do things like adding a carousel, a bootstrap carousel row, and other row types like a quote and things like that, and we'll just build up our suite of row types that we want to use in this project. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you do, please click on like and subscribe to my channel, and share with other people as well. If you did want to say thank you by buying me a coffee, you can do by going to codeshare.co.uk/coffee, but no one has to. That's just up to you, only if you want to. We're using in this Bootstrap 5.1.2, I think, or something like that. So I'll put a link to the documentation for Bootstrap. If you wanted to go ahead and add any of your own row types, you can do that by going to the components bit. Oh, that would be good. We could add an FAQs, so we could do an accordion for adding FAQs as well if we want. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do there. I will push all the code for this. I'll tag the last lot for episode 8, and I'll also push this for episode 9 as well, so that when you start episode 10 you can start from this point as well. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.